It seems all right to me.
Yeah.
Don't let it fool you.
We keep you under close surveillance.
A game of chess with human pieces.
That was a good move, wasn't it?
I know a better one.
See the gentleman on the screen? You love him. Passionately, devotedly. You would do anything for him. Anything.
When can you be ready?
Tonight. This time tomorrow we'll be free.
See this thrilling adventure of The Prisoner on this channel.
If I didn't know you better, I'd think you didn't love me anymore.
I don't.
And if you didn't love me, why did you give me this locket?
Where am I? In the village. What do you want? Information. Whose side are you on? That would be telling. We want information. 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 What do you want? Information. What do you want? What do you want? Information. What do you want? Whose side are you on? What do you want? Information. What do you want? Information.
Hi, I'm Scott Appel, your guide to the world of The Prisoner here on Channel 54. Writer Kurt Vonnegut once said, "When someone tells you I love you, it's like having a loaded gun pointed at your head." Well, in tonight's episode, Checkmate, that gun is pointed at the prisoner, and we begin to see that the village will use any weapon at its command to break our hero, even enforced affection. This episode is also quite revealing about the prisoner himself. He shows us both his strength, in that he's a born leader of men, and his weakness for damsels in distress. But in the funhouse mirror of the world that is the village, these traits can be reflected in some wonderfully warped ways. I'll be back after the episode with a look at some of the creative people who made The Prisoner such a unique and intriguing series. Feel free to join me then. After all, it's your move.
Where am I?
In the village.
What do you want?
Information.
Whose side are you on?
That would be telling. We want information. Information. Information.
You won't get it.
By hook or by crook. We will.
Who are you?
The new number 2.
Who is number 1?
You are number 6.
I am not a number. I am a free man.
Welcome back, my friends, to an all-new episode of Once Upon a Village, a prisoner podcast. It's your number 2 here, John S. Drew. And I feel like this time around, even though we're dealing with the theme of chess in this episode, that I wasn't in control of what was going on as I was watching things here. I felt like the pawn in all this here. I don't know. What did you think, our own number 6, Mr. Jim Beard?
It made me think about that I used to like to play chess, but the problem with chess is there's always somebody better than you. and then, you know, you think you got the hang of the game, some of the ins and outs, and then somebody comes along and just literally wipes the board up with you, and then you say, I don't really feel like playing chess anymore. And you know what? That's kind of like this episode.
But I was going to say, isn't that the way it is with any game, though? I'm kind of that way where I like to think I'm really superior at Monopoly, and then there'll always be somebody who can wipe me out very easily.
Right. Yeah. It is. It's kind of like that. Well, as we'll find, number 6 thought he was a good chess player.
Yes, and thought he was the king in all this in a way. But that, and I will say, I did like the ending and the way it all ties together. But I just felt that the road there sometimes was a little bumpy.
Yeah, as we've seen in a few episodes that we've talked about so far, there's some meandering going on. And you kind of start to go, what's the plot again?
Yeah.
Yeah. But any time spent in Port Miron is I think a bonus, and I love it because we get to see some more, new areas of the village.
Yes, there is that. I've got to agree that I did like the fact that we see more of the village, in particular the beach area, which I really liked.
And another interesting new number 2.
Yes, absolutely. Before we get into this episode here, I want to quickly read something here. It's a letter that we did receive, an email. It was we got it actually. Yes, hooray. We got it a while ago, but I think I've been giving out the wrong email address. So I think that's what happened.
Now we know
that it was me, because I think I've been saying Chronicrift, and it's thechronicrift@gmail.com.
Oh, no wonder we don't get any emails.
But it's from Rick Davey, and I'll read it here. My name is Rick Davey, and I'm writing from the Unmutual website, the world's largest website dedicated to The Prisoner, with 5,000 subscribers, 7,000 weekly visitors, 5,900 Facebook followers, to congratulate you on your podcast. With your permission.
Can he get them? Can he get them all to listen to?
I know. Well, this is what he says here. With your permission, I'd like to add the news of the podcast to the Stop Press section of the main homepage of the site, and also add it to the unmutual.co.uk/podcast HTM. I'll put that link as well in our show notes, so this way you can get a check there as well, which is a small guide list to all the Prisoner podcasts out there. I know of one other that I did listen to quite a while ago myself. I just wanted to drop you a note to say how much I am enjoying the podcast. What is very refreshing and welcome is that neither of you are pretending to know every piece of minutia about the episodes. You're just watching, enjoying, and chatting about what you get from them in a very endearing way. Well, thanks. Yeah.
You know what? Wow, he gets it.
He gets it, yeah.
That's exactly what I wanted this to be. Good.
Unlike, say, our friend when we were doing the Green Hornet.
Yes. It's always the standard that we match everything to now.
Bravo. I wish others would take your approach. One thing I have disliked about some previous podcasts on The Prisoner is that the presenters put themselves up as experts, but then get a load of things wrong. Thanks for not doing that.
Yeah, no, there's no pretense of being experts here.
Nope. Just two people who have watched the show, enjoy it, and just wanted to have a chat about it here. And again, as Jim would say, if there's something we're doing wrong, let us know, and we can definitely correct it.
Yeah.
I've really been enjoying the discussions and your take on the episodes. I know one thing you really didn't want was fans writing and correcting you, so please don't take the following as doing that. It's a genuine bit of info to help. No, I you know what, Rick? Anybody wants to correct us on anything there, go for it, because that's one thing we would appreciate.
Yeah, we have no shame.
At the Unmutual, there's a section about episode orders, which you might find interesting. I'll also put the link up for that. I think you're right to go with the broadcast order, but Jim is quite right that it's an order which doesn't make continuity sense. Then again, neither does A&E's DVD order, which bizarrely puts A, B, and C before the general.
Yeah.
The production order is completely different. Arrival was shot first, along with all the location footage for 3 other episodes. So there's something, Jim. Remember I told you about the blocks? They probably were doing one block, and it was like, these are all the location stuff. And then it's like, we'll do the studio stuff. And it all depended on availability. It all depended on set design, if there was any that needed to be done and all that. So that might explain why some, even though they were later got shot up earlier, because they were all bunched in. If it was also probably more of a location type thing, that might have actually sent it further up the line because they didn't have to worry about interiors as much.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
So the only other scripts ready at that point were Leo McKern's 2 episodes. So that's why Once Upon a Time was shot so early. It was always going to be held back until the series finale. Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah. Which would explain then why our story editor, George, what's his name, left in the middle of the series. He already knew what was going on with the ending.
Mark Stein.
Yeah, Mark Stein, and probably didn't agree with it. He was having issues with it.
Yeah.
It makes perfect sense.
Yeah, look at how many shows, have had similar stories in that same way. A creator, co-creator, a pivotal figure, kind of, either literally leaves or resigns or just sort of, drops off. Boy, I'm thinking of Star Trek. Gene Roddenberry kind of just lets it, lets it lie there at 3rd season. There's, some other examples, more or less Dozier with Batman,
Yeah. Now this is interesting here. FYI, the reason the episodes where Six is new to the village, such as Free for All or Dance of the Dead, were placed later in the broadcast order is that the producers didn't want to use up all the episodes shot on location in Port Merion. Arrival, Free for All, Checkmate, and Dance of the Dead all at the start, as that would lead to the last 13 in a row all being studio-heavy episodes. They wanted every 3rd or 4th episode to be a bright, summery, Port Merion-heavy episode.
Wow. Totally that makes sense. And again, back then, there wasn't all the nitpicky people like us today. Picking things apart and saying, oh, this can't possibly be, set here because of this, that, and the other thing. So, I think we were probably all in a much better place in those days to just sit back and enjoy a show and not worry about what one came where.
Well, we've been spoiled by series television now where it's, totally. everything is connected. So that, totally. That's part of the reason I do this. I like to fill in the gaps.
Yeah. Hey, well, here's the thing that our listeners, I'd love to hear about is tell us about a more recent television program that's episodic. Is there any out there that and I'm not counting sitcoms, I'm talking about dramas where episodes can kind of be rearranged and put in different orders and it doesn't really matter. Everything as far as I can tell is pretty much has at least a backstory going through them all, that they'd have to be in order.
I don't know too many sitcoms that are as episodic anymore either.
That is, yes, you know what, you're right, and that is changing too. I'm just thinking of like Big Bang,
right?
Of all the ongoing stories in there. You're absolutely right. Yeah, boy, I can't even think of any truly episodic shows anymore. But if they're out there, I'd love to hear about them. Tell us.
Yep. And he finishes up, keep up the good work, and I hope that the above frequently asked questions section on episode order is of interest to you, and I look forward to hearing from you. Cool. Signed, Rick Davey, theunmutual.co.uk, the prisoner shop, co.uk. Well,
thanks. Thank you, Rick. Yep. I really appreciate that, all those notes.
Yes. And as I say, no, absolutely. If we're getting something wrong, let us know. There's no ego here in that regard because we know, like you said, Rick, we'll admit we're no prisoner experts. I'm watching this for the first time probably in about 2 years myself.
It's even longer for me.
Okay.
Yeah. Childhood. And then I probably didn't see it again until after I was married. But then, a couple times over the last 30 years, we've sat and watched but it's been a while. That's why this is so fun to see what I remember and what I don't.
Right.
This episode today, Checkmate, I remember probably most of the first half of it, but not really much of the second half of it.
I just remember the chess set. That was it. And for some reason, I thought that was what was cool. But as I say now, in watching it and sitting down and going over it, I was getting a little lost, just a little bit at times.
Real quick about the chess game, and you're going to see this as a common notation in the books about the show, and it's true. If there's anything so iconic about the show, it's got to be this chess game.
Well, yes.
The image of it is so prevalent. If you bring up anything about the prisoner, it's either going to get mentioned or illustrated or something like that. And to the extent of the fan clubs that go to Port Miran and gather there, they do the same thing. Right. Play the human chess. So really important to the look of the show.
It's also interesting too, because, and we'll get into this, that the other characters that we see play the roles they do on the chessboard.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah.
Yep.
So let's get into this here. The episode.
Wait, you're saying number 6 is a pawn?
Well, he is at the start of this. He's playing the pawn in front of the queen there. So
Sure.
The episode's called Checkmate. Aired November 24th, 1967 in Britain, August 17th, 1968 in the United States. So we're already jumping a couple of weeks ahead there with the United States. There were other episodes before it there. Our number 2 this time, I want to get this quickly out of the way. Peter Wingard, who was quite the sex symbol in Britain in the 60s and 70s. And at one point we see why, with his hairy chest there all visible.
Here's what I have to say to this guy. Too much eyeshadow.
Yep. But they and I forget the TV series that he was best known for. And he only did like a year or two of it, but my God, I've read so much about it, and now I can't even remember the episode, the TV show that it was called. He was a detective, and he just was like, and he walking around like, we all laugh at Lee Majors and say about him with the shirts open all the time. This guy's got Lee Majors beat with the chest hair and the shirts down. Lee Majors is tame compared to Peter Wingard.
I don't see it.
I don't either, but
Speaking completely straight. I mean, and I'll be, believe me, if I have a man crush, I admit it. Robert Downey Jr., I'm looking at you. But
I'm Timothy Dalton.
This episode is quickly turning into something that I didn't expect. But anyways, I don't see it with this Peter Wingard guy. I mean, McGowan, yes.
Okay.
And I love it. And we're going to get to that scene in the scene where the Queen is shown the little tiny footage of number 6, and the doctor says, look at this man. He's very handsome, isn't he?
Yes.
Yes, he is. In an odd sort of way.
But he did appear, to continue my Doctor Who thread here, he did appear in the Peter Davison era. In fact, in the penultimate Peter Davison story, The Planet of Fire, playing a religious fanatic.
Since my father's time, unbelievers have been sent to the flames.
That was barbaric.
Yes, a little overzealous, perhaps. In those days, people didn't tolerate dissenters as they do now.
The unbelievers are harmless.
Yes, but it's still a wise precaution to send the occasional free thinker to the flames.
You're obsessed with Doctor Who. I'm surprised we don't get letters saying that.
I'll tell you, it's just, when I watch, because it's either that or I would be going the Avengers route too, which I could easily do that too.
Okay.
But I saved that for my friend Thomas DJ and his Avengers podcast.
Okay.
I thought, right off the bat, the very first thing that stands out to me is that we get what's called the fisheye, wipe as we open on the village. It goes from black to, coming out wide from just a small dot in the screen.
Yeah. Boy, is this an opening or what?
Yeah.
Yeah. Really great opening.
Well, it's
One
a great
of my
opening,
favorites.
and it plays up on something we've already seen. Once again, everybody in the village has stopped. Nobody's moving, and Rover is moving about. And what's interesting is that you think at first there's one person who starts to walk off, and you think, all right, this is the guy who's going to be the troublemaker here. But no, it's just, hey, I think they're all stopping because they're giving him his path, letting him have his path to get to the chess because of the chessboard, because he is the champion.
Sir, do you play chess, sir? Yes. Come and join.
I'm the queen. Come and be the queen's pawn.
Who's he?
I can answer that as we play.
On to king's four.
Well?
He's the champion.
Pawn to king's four.
Who was he?
It's hard to say.
Knight to queen's bishop three.
I've heard rumors.
Such as?
He's an ex-count.
Knight to knight bishop three.
From?
Who knows?
Knight to knight five.
His ancestors are supposed to have played chess using their retainers.
Bishop to knight four.
They say they were beheaded as they were wiped off the board.
Charming.
Oh, don't worry. That's not allowed here.
Knight to king's bishop three.
Who is number one?
Doesn't do to ask questions.
Bishop to bishop four.
Yeah, I love it when, number 6, as he usually does, we've seen him do this before, but he says to the queen, who was he?
Yes.
Yeah, he's obsessed with knowing who everybody was before coming to the village. I should have said this right at the beginning. If you leave this episode and you think it's okay or it's mediocre, there is, I think, one really big important thing in this episode, the takeaway, and that is the idea of prisoners and guardians, which we really haven't gotten before.
No.
And you and I have talked about it a lot, and it's pretty clearly stated here. And I just want to throw that out as we go through this, that it's a really big, to me, takeaway, from this episode.
Yes. I thought, too, it was interesting because he's still trying. Even, it's just like this quick thing because they've got this report. Because what happens is the prisoner follows, and then he joins in on the game, playing a pawn on the queen's level. So basically he's right in front of her on the chessboard there. So they get into talking, and in the course of their conversation, he slips in who's number one.
Yeah.
Who
let me ask you this. Did you get the impression at all that number 6 and number 8, the queen, had already met? They already sort of knew each other. Or is this supposed to be their very first contact ever?
I could see, considering how some of the other relationships are also set up, with the prisoner and the others, that maybe he did have this relationship with her before.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, he's going to establish the relationship with the Rook. And we see the shopkeeper from Arrival as part of this whole
thank
scheme.
you. I made a note about that. That is the same guy. Yeah, I love it. And he becomes part of the plot, too.
Yes. Yep.
And by plot, I mean literally the scheme, the plan, the plot.
Yes. Now, the whole time the game is being played, of course, number 2 is watching in control as usual. I would think he has known her, just to get back to your point there, because at one point he suggests that he has a way to get out of there.
Yeah. I'm not saying like a big relationship between the two of them, but it just, to me, there seemed a little bit of a casualness there that they had already met at some point before, talked or whatever. It just seemed more like that they were familiar with each other.
Mm-hmm. It might explain also later on, although I know we've discussed his misogyny, but just how abruptly he turns on her when she professes her love, which is really sudden.
I've got some real issues with his attitude in this one. And we've talked a lot, about his whole attitude about women before.
Right.
It comes on cruel. And she tells him at one point.
Yep.
I get it. I totally get it, but I'm going to go so far as to say he is being abnormally cruel.
Mm-hmm.
And then it even kind of gets awkward. Once she gets to the point where she believes she's in love with him, and then they have a couple of tete-a-tetes with just the two of them, it's kind of uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the stuff, and I get that, and number 6 starts to feel uncomfortable. So it's not just that he's annoyed by her, but then it also, I'm going to go so far as to say number 6 doesn't involve himself with women, partially at least because he's not very good with women. Maybe he didn't have a lot of dates when he was in the real world, but that's another good takeaway from this episode is his, you said misogyny. I don't know if I want to go that far, but he is pretty damn nasty in this.
Right. Well, that's the thing. It's like he's not. Well, we'll get into that when we get to that point there, because at this point right now they're still just talking with each other here, and I do agree with you. I think there may have been a relationship of sorts, someone he knows off screen, casual talking, but enough to know that maybe she's someone he could confide in, because like I say, he brings up the fact that he has a way out. And in talking to her, he totally misses his cue that he needs to move. And I thought this was interesting because they just keep repeating the move. Nothing happens. Okay. And in terms of nothing happens to him, but then moments later, after he finally makes his move and there's another pawn there going, don't worry, you'll be protected by the queen, which is also a great line. The rook on the other side, one of the rooks, just moves without orders. And he's taken away immediately.
I wondered, it's an extreme measure. Number one, the rook doing what he did is just odd to begin with.
Right.
Because who does that? You're playing a game and you're acting as one of the chess pieces. We all know what the game of chess is. You have 2 players and they control the board and they control the pieces. Who the hell agrees to be a human chess piece and then just makes their own move? Right?
Someone who, as the queen makes a reference to, is part of the cult of the individual.
I guess. And then the whole reaction by the village authorities is very extreme also.
Right.
Like so what? I kept going, well, so what? Well, I don't know, just, there's other ways to chastise this guy. he could be chastised by his peers and say, someone could say, that's bad form, old chap, and that sort of thing. But no, I mean, they go to the big extreme.
Well, yeah, it's
he's got to be reconditioned.
Well, that's it. It's two ends of this thing where you've got on one end, you've got nothing done to the prisoner who's just standing there, and it looks like he's being defiant. They don't know. And then you got the Rook who just suddenly moves out of nowhere. Their answer is, let's get him in for reconditioning.
Yeah. At one point I wrote a note and I said, why is it so important to break this guy?
To break the Rook?
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's they can't let that kind of thing happen, but I didn't think it was so bad. But I guess in the village, it's super bad.
I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
The Rook is replaced. The game continues. When it's over, our prisoner walks off with the Counts, the champion there, and they talk. About.
I love their scene.
Well, see, this is where I did appreciate the whole theme of this thing about your sense of anything, like giving you some sort of sense of power when you're so powerless. He likes playing with the human pieces because it gives him a sense of power. But at the same time, he also admits he's resigned to his fate. But then he does little things to defy the authorities, like keeping his mind sharp.
Yeah. Most times, number 6 interacts with anybody in the village. Nobody is treated like an equal to him.
Right.
I enjoyed this scene because the champion, number 6, more or less treats him as an equal.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a really interesting conversation. And it's not very long, but I came away liking that guy, and kind of sorry that he's not in more of the episode.
Mm-hmm. But that's the thing. As you go through the episode, everybody he brings into the fold, you kind of like to a certain extent. The Rook, the shopkeeper, because they all have, and this is the thing, he finds through conversations, and that's why I think even with the Queen, there's been off-camera discussions before. He's been finding all these people who are like-minded. It's like, I'm a prisoner, but if the chance did present itself, I've got the means, the skills, something. The Rook brings something clearly to the table, as we'll see in this escape plan.
Well, I think it's that number 6 is so alone in the village, and of course he does push people away, that it's fun and somewhat comforting to see a little band get together, or when he's with people that maybe he doesn't have to be totally on his guard with, and that he can actually work with him. You watch this show and these episodes on pins and needles. I think I might have said this before, because you are just waiting for the betrayal. You're waiting for, the turnaround, the stab in the back, the distrust, mistrust, and sometimes it doesn't make it entertaining, when you're waiting for that. So when you get some characters who are going along with him and maybe are actually working, honestly with him, it's kind of nice.
Yeah. We get it, as is the case with most of the episodes, we get our little scene there with the prisoner and number 2 doing a little verbal sparring.
Hello. Enjoy your chess yesterday?
Don't tell me you care.
Well, of course. We want you to be happy.
Fine, just give me a one-way ticket home.
Won't you ever give up?
What do you think?
You're wrong. We have ways. If you drive us to them.
I can imagine.
It's all done under the strictest medical supervision.
I can guess that from the state of the man you took yesterday.
The Rook? Oh, no, you come to no harm. It's just a rehabilitation course.
You make it sound very attractive. What do you want me to do? Envy him?
Like your sense of humor. But we can't have you worrying. Get in.
Why?
I'm going to the hospital. I thought perhaps you'd like to see our friend the Rook.
Yes.
and number 2 then takes him to the hospital so he can see the work being done on the Rook.
Yeah. And I wrote a note right here. For the most part, number 6 watches everything placidly.
Yes.
It says something about the character again. Number 6 is not he's not a superhero. He's not necessarily a good man.
No.
Or there are times where his coldness and his detachment are sometimes kind of hard to watch if you really look at it. He doesn't always speak up. He could have spoken up and protested or said, this is unnaturally dehumanizing or anything at all. But he just kind of watches it. He's watching a guy getting shocks. We've seen before. Nadia got shocks.
Yep.
And I'm not criticizing the character. It's a very interesting character that number 6 is, because he can be very reptilian, I guess, at times.
He doesn't want to play his hand because
sure.
Because think about it. In the next scene, he's walking about the village. He's got the paper in his hand, and I think he's got it's like a chessboard there, which I think has the results of the day before, where everybody was moving, because he's notching people off as he's walking around. And then finally he finds the Rook. Mm-hmm. And really, for the first time, he confides in someone he doesn't know.
Yeah, right. They kind of fall in with each other pretty easily.
Yes. Considering he was just conditioned the day before, it's interesting that he is willing to take him into his confidence.
Yeah. And we find the conditioning doesn't work because the Rook goes along with it. So one assumes that 6 saw something during the conditioning or whenever that told him this guy is not. They don't have this guy.
Well, I think
I can use him.
Right. I think it's the simple matter. I mean, well, first of all, he reveals who he is. Like I said, he brings something to the table because he's an electronics expert, because he came up with a defense system that he wanted to make available to all, not just the country he developed it in. So he's sent to the village when he tried to give the secrets away. But then he says something really telling. The only way I'll ever defeat these people is when I'm dead.
Yeah, I guess so.
So to me, that's your conditioning doesn't sound like it took too well there.
No, it obviously didn't.
Yeah. I thought this was interesting, though, because my wife was watching this one with me for a bit, and she was watching this scene, and she said, aren't they watching him? And I'm like, yeah, you can see Control's watching the whole exchange there between them. And she goes, where's the listening devices there?
Yeah, we've brought this up before too. There's inconsistencies of the eavesdropping throughout the village. Mm-hmm. I doubt if it would be like that today. It would definitely be cameras covering everything. But there's lots of places that you can get away with stuff. I got a real kick out of when they listen in on number 6 and the Rook. Did you get his number?
No.
I kept looking at his button and I couldn't see his number. I love it. They tune in to listen to them, and number 6 is they're talking about chess moves, and I just enjoyed that subterfuge about they're listening in, so let's talk about chess.
Right. But the thing is, I thought this was interesting because number 2 doesn't seem very concerned because he's been assured by the doctor that the treatment has taken with the Rook.
Yeah.
And, you think at first, could number 2 be that naive?
Yeah, well, you don't want to believe it because we've seen how many number 2s who have something going on. But yeah, it seems to me that at this point they're really fooling this guy.
Mm-hmm. And, so then he and the Rook, now in their confidence, they walk about the village, checking in on certain people that he's already recruited, the prisoner, including, as I said, our shopkeeper from the first episode.
Yeah. So here I want to make this point again. Not everyone is a prisoner. We've pondered that in past episodes. I've even said that. Is everyone in the village a prisoner? Well, we find out now that no. Mm-hmm. There's guardians and prisoners.
Yeah.
So I assume the guardians are what? Volunteer? Are they hired? But that's interesting because I couldn't see that every single person in the village, other than number 2, are prisoners. Yeah, because the Rook questions, and he says us. And number 6 says, like, you assumed I was a prisoner, or I was a guardian. Pardon me. And I love it because,
but that's
the
telling.
Rook says, I'm sorry, but I've been caught that way before, with somebody, a guardian, trying to act like they were a prisoner.
Right.
So that's another little thing that's happened before this episode that's very interesting.
And even though he's told that our prisoner is not, he'll still keep believing it to the end, sadly.
Yeah, that's a very important, good point right there.
Yeah. Control now, at this point, though, is panicking because they see them moving about. They have no audio and stuff. So they bring our prisoner in and subject him to another one of our word games that we had. I forget the episode.
Cat. Dog. Rain. Shine. Desk. Work. Hope. Anchor. Anchor? Hope and anchor is puppies to drink out. Tree. Leave. Home. Away. Return. Game. Love. Game. Game. Tennis. Table. Chair. Ship. Shape. Red. Sails. Free. For all.
This has got to be one of my favorite scenes in the whole series.
Really?
Yeah. Well, number one, it's well played. It's very clever. I don't know. I just enjoy this so much. And those two really must have rehearsed that a lot to get that. That's rapid fire stuff.
Yeah.
There. And then, and that's just wonderful. Oh, the best parts are when she stops and questions, like, his answers, and and then he explains them, and then it's just rapid fire again. That's the real fun of it. Love, game, yes, in tennis. I mean, that's just so weird. Like, why would the doctor stop and question and answer? It's a psychological test. You don't stop in the middle of it and go, "What the hell do you mean?"
Because now you're losing the train of thought as you're trying to develop.
I know. I'm surprised that number 6 went along with the whole damn thing in the first place.
Yeah.
They didn't have to, like, drug him in the middle of the night like they're constantly doing and drag him in there. He just goes in there willingly. I don't know. I mean, maybe it was just a slow day and he thought it might be kind of fun to give them a hassle again.
Right. Now, I thought this next part, and this led to our whole discussion there about, his behavior towards women and stuff, because they bring in the queen to experiment on. They program her to fall in love with the prisoner, loving him so much she will betray him to save him. I found this whole thing, in the end, a red herring.
Did you?
Because I don't think this played out the way they set it up to. I think that was the whole thing, and that was not for him, it was more for us. We were going to focus on the two of them and not on the rest of the group.
I see what you mean. A red herring, right. Right. A distraction to us, the viewers.
Right.
Look over here at this. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very, very interesting. Mm-hmm. I just found it, and I said this earlier, awkward. And maybe we were supposed to have found that all awkward. It's embarrassing to listen in on their conversations, and especially because of his attitude.
Right.
Yeah, like he's embarrassed. You can tell somewhat. He's and then gets that very hard edge with her. He's assuming that somebody put her up to it instead of assuming that she has been brainwashed. There's a difference.
Sure.
Because he keeps saying, who put you up to this? I would have thought he then, after the first time, he would have figured out that she's had something done to her, because rather than
so
them
insistent.
just being an agent of theirs.
Right, because she's so insistent.
Yeah, I would have thought he could have told, that it's the one or not the other.
Yeah, no, I mean, because she's so insistent, she never falters in her love. There's nothing there that she says or does that would make him suspect, that should make him suspect this is an act. Mm-hmm. I would think, and then add to it the whole creepy level as well, that they've got a tracker on her that, is able to keep track of her pulse. So they know it's not that they're tracking her, they're just monitoring her pulse. So when her pulse is he's in the area.
Listen, it's a fiction show, and it's, a spy thing, and it's weird and everything like that. There's got to be better ways to track somebody. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's cruel on the part of number 2 and that doctor to make this woman do this thing, all for just tracking him. Is there no other way to track him at all other than to, brainwash this woman? She's going to get her feelings really, really hurt.
Right.
Unless she doesn't remember it all. Hopefully they bring her out of it at some point. We don't really get much of any sort of resolution to that.
No,
right?
but that's why I say this is more of a red herring than anything else.
Yeah.
There is no
I'm the sort of guy who wonders what happened to her.
Right.
Does it wear off after a while? Or does number 6 have to keep putting up with her for the rest of the time he's there in the village?
Imagine if just every once in a while she just sort of wanders in and...
Well, and then she's creepy as far as he's getting ready for bed, and he comes out and there she is making him hot chocolate in like a dressing gown, right?
Yeah.
You would almost have believed that she had, spent the night or was going to spend, or maybe she thought she was going to spend the night. I don't know. It's talk about your stalkers, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Jeez.
See, if I was him, well, he does for the most part. I would have pretty quickly figured it out and then played along.
Right.
And he kind of does, and that's how he gets the tracker away from her.
Right. I don't know. I just, because to me, then it's like you say, there's almost like, again, it's almost like 2 parts here, but it's not. This story. There's definitely 2 plots that seem to be going on here. This thing with her, and then the thing with the rest of them, and that's why I look at it as the red herring with her.
Well, we've seen that. We've seen that sort of thing before in this show.
A little better done, though?
Yeah, yes, yeah. I don't think I saw it exactly the way you're seeing it. I mean, it's an annoyance to him as he's trying to escape.
Right.
I wish we had seen a little bit more of his gathering of the group. I would have found it interesting if there had been more time. We see him in the initial forays, and then all of a sudden he has the group.
Yeah,
and he gets that shopkeeper, which is fun. The shopkeeper from Arrival,
right? And
then all of a sudden we see that guy has fallen into the group with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Considering he seemed to be pretty well established in the first episode as being a solid member of the community, running the shop and everything, and answering the questions that our prisoner puts to him about, I need a bigger map and stuff. And he's like answering him like, what are you talking about?
Exactly.
There is only the village.
Right.
So, they let the queen go. Our prisoner grabs himself a taxi, steals it. And again, They let him do this. They are aware that the taxi is stolen because the Queen also then grabs one and starts following
right,
him.
she just takes one too.
Right.
And she keeps honking the horn.
Yes.
Which I think is funny. There's actually some moments of, I think it's more unintentional humor than like scripted humor. There's this when he's backtracking a bit, he's when he first is stalking the Rook, he keeps popping up, and that made me laugh. Like, he pops up out of the flowers,
right,
and then he pops up in that doorway, and it's just like pretty much his head and his shoulders. I don't think it was supposed to be humorous, but it came off as humorous.
There's a couple of humorous lines in here. There was one that made me laugh out loud. We're coming up on it soon.
Oh, I bet you I know. Go, keep going. But I think I know exactly what you mean. Well, but I think her chasing after him in the taxi and honking the horn twice it was pretty damn funny.
It's funny, but I mean, it wasn't laugh out loud funny, and especially because it's weird because at one point he manages to lose her.
Yeah.
You know, which is interesting. He manages to lose her. And here's the thing. The doctor insists to number 2 and Control, I think it is also there, that she will always find him. And she does eventually. But does she find him or does he allow her to find him?
I think she just finds him.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe he does, lure her in so he can figure what the hell's going on.
Mm-hmm. So we get this whole thing because he then, like I said, he loses her. He picks up the Rook, and they then go on this spree around the village. I mean, and nobody seems to be able to catch them in the act doing anything, or if they are, they're just letting them do it. They go to one of the overhead cameras, knock it out, and take it with them. Then they stop.
Yeah, take it. They actually steal the camera.
Well, they steal the camera. They steal a phone. They grab stuff from the repair truck when the repair guy isn't looking.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's pretty damn easy. It should be pretty easy to get out of that place.
Right, exactly. That's what I'm thinking. It's just, it's a little too convenient, but. There it is. He then gets out of the cab and our Rook takes off with all the stolen equipment there. And he finds the Queen, or she finds him, and he gets in the cab with her. And there's a line there. This didn't make me laugh. I thought it was actually a really good line, though, because this is where she admits she loves him. She starts crying when he rebukes her and stuff.
How can you doubt me?
It's easy, and I'm waterproof. A slight drizzle won't wash away my doubt, so don't try.
I don't want to be near you.
And everybody's near in this place, far too near.
Yeah, yes, yeah. But he's a piece of work, I tell you.
But then it gets even creepier because then we cut to that night and he's preparing for bed and suddenly we hear singing from the kitchen. Yep. And there she is in there making hot chocolate.
Right. In a bathrobe.
Did you get the feeling, because the way she's talking, all of a sudden she's talking like now they've been in a relationship for a while. Did you get the feeling she was thinking she was going to stay the night?
That's what I said to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yes, that's exactly what I thought.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, God.
I almost wondered, I don't know if at this time in 1967, if there's some kind of a line in there, that would make you think that would have been too much. I don't know. Something like, aren't you going to ask me to stay, or something like that when they get the announcement of the curfew.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
I mean, because then he could have literally, he could have just been mean about it, but he could have said, oh, it's curfew. They'll know that you're not in your home.
Mm-hmm.
No,
but instead he roars at her to leave and everything. She starts crying.
Yeah.
But he manages to sort of calm her down and turn it around. And I don't know if I'd necessarily say leave her hopeful, but she's like, can I see you again, or something like that. And the line.
Would you like some more chocolate?
Chocolate? No, I've got some.
May I see you again?
Oh, yes, I'm here all the time.
Thank you ever so much.
And I just started bursting because the way he says it, it's just like.
I know. It's
whatever.
The timing is great. I laughed out loud. It is really fun. Can I see you again? I'm here all the time. It's very well done.
Yep. The next,
and you know what's good about that really is we don't really get a lot of humor in this show.
No.
Right?
No, not a lot.
Right. That's why I think it even was funnier to me because it was like, wait, that was really funny and delivered well.
Right, and delivered very well, yes.
Yeah.
Yep. The next day, now this whole bit here, and this is where we start to see more of the idea of how this thing is going to progress. The next day, the Rook is at the beach, and number 2 steps up to him and talks to him, asks him how's the medication going and all that, and tells him, and I thought this was telling, if you get an attack of egotism, contact the hospital.
Yeah, another good line.
Yeah. But you see, it plays into, because the whole thing is that, you're with the village. You're not an individual, and your ego shouldn't play into anything at all here. But that's what the prisoner counts on, is everybody who thinks of themselves as the individual. That's how he's able to form this team. Unfortunately, when you also have your ego so confidently stuck out there, it can backfire. And that's what we'll see at the end.
Well, number 6 is arguably nothing but ego. Mm-hmm. I mean, right?
Right.
He's the guy that's always sure of himself, cocky. Not to the sense of being reckless necessarily, but I see what you're saying. But yeah, I mean, he's talking about somebody that needs to be told that their ego needs to be checked.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Now I got to say,
but that's what we love. That's what we also love about number 6, that he can go up to number 2 and be flippant with him. And here's a consistent thread through all number 2s is they all laugh about it. They always, number 2 gives one of his flip answers to something, or number 6 does, and whoever's number 2 always starts like chuckling, laughing, and says like, "Oh, number 6, you'll be the death of me," or "You're such a card." And that's what I think I really love most about the number 2s is they always do that same thing. They always act like they're so amused by this funny man who just won't go along with things.
Yeah. But how can they not think that, if they know his ego is so big?
Sure.
Which is ironic because they want to maintain that. That's part of this whole thing. I mean, yeah, it's the don't damage the tissue and all that stuff, but it's also...
And that comes up in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they talk about, like, the doctor's like, well, boy, I'd like to do a brain operation on him. No, he's too important.
Do you think that they were hoping to groom him to eventually be a number 2?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
My thought at the end of this was he is guardian material.
Yeah.
And that's why the Rook cannot think otherwise.
Right.
Because he comes off as guardian material.
Right.
They've said it in other episodes. If you would just go along with it, you could have a place here with us. Mm-hmm. You could have a position.
Yeah.
You could have a job. You could rise up, in the ranks or whatever. But yeah, sure. Number 2, well, yeah, why not? And essentially, that is kind of what happens in that comic book series. The Dean Motter one.
Oh, yeah.
He's essentially number 2.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, great point. Good point.
Been ages since I've read that.
Yeah, same here. I didn't care for it when I first read it.
Oh, I loved it.
Now I feel like rereading it.
Yeah.
Especially after, I think what I'm going to do is when we're done with the show, I'm going to reread that.
Okay.
And maybe even delve into the novels too.
Okay.
Not the recent ones, but the ones, from back in the day.
Right. I got to say, I do love the beach. I love that we got, an extended view of it, not just the bits where he's running along the shore with even the little tents that, if the sun's too much. And I was actually, I got to say, I was surprised to see those tents there. You would think that amount of privacy would not be allowed.
Yeah, I mean, look, it allows the Rook to sit and work on an electronic device.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, they're not wondering what the hell's going on. They, here we were talking about before about what they see and what they don't see, and here in these scenes, oh no, Control's got the cameras and they're pulling way back and then zooming in and looking around, spotting particular people and everything, and then there's other times where, well, you can walk right up and steal a camera.
Speaking of stealing, all right. First off, he goes and he checks. The prisoner goes and checks on the progress of the device the electronic device that our Rook is working on. Then he runs into the Queen, and now she's really like this infatuation has come to the point where she's got not only just a belief that she loves him, but he's given her a locket, which he never did. But they've given it to her probably as part of the programming. It's got his picture in it, but it's also got like some electronics. So he takes the locket and walks off with it saying, I'll get you a better picture. And of course she loves him. So she's going to believe that.
Yeah. Right. She doesn't like it very much, but what is she, she's not going to say no to him.
Right. Exactly. But let me ask you this. They discover the locket is gone. They don't know that it's on the prisoner, but they do look for him. They find him walking along the beach, and then he goes up to something and he takes something. I couldn't see what it was he was taking.
Oh, I am not sure.
My guess is because the Rook said I need more transistors, that it's something electronic. It's the only thing I can imagine. It's like, what was he grabbing?
This was after he got the locket?
After he got the locket.
Oh, because the transistors are in the locket.
Right.
That's what works. He says, can you use it? And the guy said, it's everything I need.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know, John. I hate to say it, but I can't even picture that.
Yeah. I don't know. But now I thought this was interesting too. So then once the device is ready, the plan is ready to go into action. He goes around the village to the other members of the team, saying Rook to Queen's Pawn 6. They in turn pass the message on. It's code that the scheme is now ready to go.
Yeah.
Now it's interesting to note. I don't know, when was the last time you played chess? I had to do a little looking up myself because it's been a while for me.
It's been a while. I couldn't even tell you. I mean, I don't know. Years, decades, maybe.
Because here's the thing. There's that line at the beginning that says the Queen will protect you. Yeah, the Queen can protect a pawn if, she wants to, if the player wants to, in some way sacrifice for a pawn, which would be crazy. Because the Queen can move anywhere on the board.
Right.
The Rook is able to move as many spaces as it wants, up or down, left or right, no diagonal movements. But the Rook has a special ability called castling that allows.
They say that during the chess game. One of the players yells out "castle."
Right, exactly. Where it would basically give the king a somewhat of a defense. So you would think the way it's all set up here that it's actually the Rook that should be protecting our prisoner, the king, who's running this whole thing. But as we're going to see, that's not the case in the end.
Right.
Yeah. That night, they have the radio working. They send out a mayday call, and an answer is received by a boat out on the water. The prisoner pretends to be a flight in danger. He cannot, and okay, now this is where I'm going to be like, this episode has to come before Many Happy Returns because he doesn't know the location yet. He can't give coordinates.
Correct.
So he pretends that the radio is acting up. He crinkles some paper. And,
I love that part. Yeah, it's funny.
But the boat is, trying to locate them based on the signal that the radio is sending off, which then what they do is they take the radio, go out to this inflatable raft. Now we got an inflatable raft. Or as number 2, I think, calls it later on, that toy.
Yeah. Where did they get the raft?
Right.
I don't know.
I mean, we've had the boat that he made out of wood. We had the other one that he made out of logs, the raft out of logs and the cans. Now we've got an inflatable raft that does, he's right. I mean, it looks like it's amazing. I'm amazed that it actually holds him the way it does.
Yes. Yeah, I thought that too.
But he gets on at the Rook with the radio. The radio's sending off the signal and pushes off into the water.
Also, Control is listening.
Yes.
To the exchange, and Control believes or doesn't recognize that that's number 6.
Right.
Because Control calls in. And I should have said this earlier. Yet another Control. Mm-hmm. The guy, another actor.
Right.
Playing Control. He lets number 2 know that this is going on.
Yes.
So he seems to be falling for it. This Control doesn't seem to be terribly bright.
Well, he's bright enough to say, let's coordinate with the tower at one point.
Yeah, but it's like, you would think he'd recognize number 6's voice.
Well, you would think so. If he's such a high priority, you would think so. Yes, absolutely.
Exactly.
Yep. Our prisoner heads to that beached boat that I like so much there, and he finds the other members of the team waiting for him, tells them that help is on the way, but they need to make sure that the boat's approach is not hampered by the spotlights. So they go to the tower, and we get our fist fight and stuff, but they're able to take out the 2 men and turn off the light.
Yeah, good. Yeah, a good fist fight.
Mm-hmm. And then we get some eye candy for the ladies and maybe a few gentlemen there, as number 2 in his room, his control area there is on the floor in his gi with his chest showing there. And it looks like he's meditating.
Yeah, that's right. That's the first impression is he's doing yoga or something, mm-hmm. Meditating, right. It's just goofy. That whole thing is just goofy.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not sure what the point of that all was, other than to show off that guy, I guess.
I'm sure that had a lot to do with it. Like I said,
you would almost think that actor asked for this, maybe. Or it's in his contract, his agent has that in his contract.
Or maybe this was the start of it all, and he went, "Ooh, that's quite good."
Yeah.
Now, here's the part. Even number 2 is kind of like, what are you doing? Because this is a pretty bold move. The prisoner and the other men go to number 2's place and capture him.
I love this. I love it. But you don't believe it when it starts happening, and it's like, oh, they're really like capturing him,
Mm-hmm. But see,
they're capturing the other king.
I guess, but I was like number 2 going, this is a bad move.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And as soon as they do, they see that the signal has now cut out. So the prisoner races to the beach. He sees that the raft has, landed on the shore with the radio only. The Rook is not there at all. So he then takes the raft, goes out into the water. I'm guessing the radio isn't working anymore, though, because he doesn't seem to turn it back on and get the signal going again.
Yeah, and I also wondered, did he intend to ditch the other guys?
Yeah, I know.
I'm not. It just shows the character of this man that we've been following all along. He's going to take advantage of the situation, and if at least he can get out, and he can't get the others out, oh well.
Right, because he sees the ship eventually. The MS Palaska rows towards it, gets on board, asks to see the captain and everything. And when they're like, where's the rest of the crew? He goes, I want to talk to the captain. He's evasive. We never get to see, though, how far he's willing to take this in terms of the current situation, because immediately he hears the voice of number 2.
I hate to disappoint you, but the Polotska's our ship. The weather forecast was very bad. You wouldn't have stood a chance in that toy boat.
I'm touched by your concern. What happened?
There's been a slight misunderstanding.
Yeah. We've also seen this boat before.
Yeah.
At least the the set
Yes.
of the bridge or the cabin and everything.
Yes.
But anyways, who's counting?
That's also Many Happy Returns.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
So number 2 has been watching the whole thing. There's a television on the boat there, and he tells him, that, you're not getting away. This is the end of it all. And he then shows the Rook, and he tells the Rook, I told you, because the Rook then is like, oh my gosh, I really thought you were one of them. I thought you were a guardian.
Yeah. Yeah. He couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
Well, that's like what I said. That's what they're trying to do, and you said make him number 2, and at the very least, he's guardian material, and people can't see him otherwise.
Well, it shows, because then he talks about how basically the plan couldn't work if you showed off too much confidence in yourself, if your ego was too strong, because they've all been conditioned to know that anyone with such confidence is the enemy. Because you carry yourself off like a number 2 or a guardian or just, one of of them.
Right. Exactly right.
So, and that's the thing. You wouldn't want to do that to the prisoner if you have plans for him to include him in the organization.
Right.
Of course, we've got to make one. Now we see he's making the attempt. He takes out the 2 men, races to the bridge of the ship and such. It won't start. And sure enough, Rover comes alongside the boat and basically pushes it back to the village shore.
I love the music for this fight scene. It's real jazzy and jaunty. It's interesting.
Yep.
And then there's Rover, come on over.
Yep. He was the pawn all the time and not the king.
Yep. Well, you remember what the admiral said? We're all pawns, my dear.
Yeah. But see, then this is why I come back to with the queen, because they set this all up. They even set it up to the point that she will betray him in order to save him. None of that play. That was the red herring for us. He didn't even really fall for it. We were all waiting for that thread, to go through. Instead, it's like then we get the bottom drops up from under us as we see the Rook all along, while he was helping, never really believed in the plan entirely because he never totally trusted the prisoner.
Yeah. Like I said before, I would have liked to seen a follow-up with her, with number 8, the queen. Or that somehow she plays into it at the end. It's not misogyny on the part of the screenwriters and directors and producer and everything, but it does sort of speak to, it's just sort of it's a woman character. Well, so what? It's not really that important to follow up with her. But with as cruel as she has been treated in this, when she's sort of done no wrong, other than she did show in the beginning that she would have wanted to escape. She is a malcontent in some ways.
Yeah.
But there's no reason for her to be treated as poorly as she's treated in this. And then we get no conclusion to her little story at all.
No, we don't. No. I just wanted to point out from the official Prisoner Companion, the only guide to the most original and innovative TV series of all time, the script written by Gerald Kelsey is among the best in the entire series, making good use of many standard prisoner locations and personalities. It is considered by many to be the quintessential prisoner episode, and Patrick McGowan considers it one of the original 7.
Oh, cool. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with it. I think by this point, with the placement of it, we've seen all these different things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, a quintessential, sure. Yeah, it's got all the hallmarks of the show in it, in all one episode. Sure.
It's got It's got all the hallmarks. It's got more Port Marion, which is never a bad thing.
No.
Including some locations we haven't really seen in detail.
Yeah. Interesting new characters, an interesting number 2.
Right.
Visual iconic things. We get Rover at the beginning and at the end.
Yes. And used effectively, not just for, we got to have Rover.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's not a bad episode. I don't know if it's necessarily one of my favorites.
Right. But you can see that it belongs.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. You know what? If somebody said, I've never watched The Prisoner before, other than they should probably watch Arrival.
Right.
It would be one that you'd go, okay, here, sit down and watch this one called Checkmate, and you're going to get everything you need to know about the show. Okay, there you go. Yeah, as far as the, quintessential, this is what the show's all about. It's got the allusions, it's got the clever dialogue, it's got his escape attempt, all of that. Mm-hmm. The prisoner does not come out on top at all. I mean, obviously he doesn't escape. That's not what I mean, but he's got nothing again at the end. He did not pull one over on them at all.
No, he didn't. And this is an escape episode. It's not an information episode.
No, it's totally it's totally an escape episode.
Yeah. So overall, we're good to go with this one. Was there anything else you wanted to touch on that we can get to?
No, I think we really covered it.
Okay, sounds good.
I think
sounds good. Well, then, if that's the case, that'll do it then for this episode, Once Upon a Village, a Prisoner podcast. Tune in next time, folks. Again, we're continuing with the British broadcast here, so we're going to be taking a look at Hammer into Anvil.
Oh, I'm really looking forward to this because traditionally this was one of my favorites. This is one of my dad's favorite episodes, like the guy that turned me on to this show. And he really likes Hammer into Anvil. So I'm really looking forward to revisiting it.
Mm-hmm. So, though, until then, folks, make sure commenting, letting us know over on the Facebook page, on Twitter at chronic_rift, on our website, chronicrift.com, or by emailing us at thechronicrift@gmail.com. So this way we make sure we get that one right. I don't use the Chronic Rift email too much. In fact, I'm using it just pretty much now for this. So, I just get the odd, junk email every once in a while if I don't get something about this.
We forgive you. You're forgiven.
But until then, folks, thank you so much for listening once again. Jim, everyone, be seeing you.
Be seeing you.
Symbolism may be obvious, but the message is subtle. Chess is a game of subtle psychological stratagems, but you can't even play the game until you know the rules. The prisoner's fledgling attempt to discover the rules of the game have taught him one thing at least. nothing psychological is as simple as black and white, especially in the village. But if nothing else, our hero is persistent, and in the episodes to follow, we'll see him gradually refine his newfound knowledge in his continuing attempts to master both the psychology and the technology that holds him captive. In case you're wondering why we moved Checkmate from what was episode 11 to episode 3, we have some answers. First are the obvious clues that this is where Checkmate belongs. The prisoner continues to state that he's new in the village, for instance, and he's still naive enough about the power of the village at this point to rely on an unsophisticated psychological trick and to think that his escape could be as easy as just breaking out. There's a few more reasons as well, but we'll go into those after next week's episode. You might watch, however, to see who our hero trusts and how far from the village his escape attempts get him. So, we've just seen the prisoner try to organize a group of villagers and fail. Fortunately, in real life, Patrick McGoohan fared much better in a similar task, organizing a group of creative people to produce the Prisoner series. Foremost among these was George Markstein, story editor. Markstein began his career as a crime reporter in Liverpool and London, and following World War II, he became military correspondent for a news magazine for U.S. troops in Europe. This established his passion for tales of intrigue and espionage. Journalism led to television news and documentary work, which in turn led him to a job as a script editor on McGoohan's Danger Man series, which later became Secret Agent on American TV. This, of course, led to The Prisoner. Since those days, Markstein has kept himself busy writing spy novels, which he describes as continuations of the Prisoner themes, and work on films, including co-scripting the 1977 feature The Odessa File. You can see George Markstein in nearly every episode of The Prisoner as the man behind the desk to whom McGoohan angrily resigns. This is especially ironic considering that it was Markstein who resigned to McGoohan when he became concerned that his spy thriller had been slanted more and more towards the allegorical. The Prisoner's producer was David Tomblin, McGoohan's partner in their Everyman Films company. They had met during the filming of the opening episode of Danger Man, which, coincidentally, was shot in Portmeirion, Wales, the same resort that served as the site for The Village. During the last several years, Tomblin has served as assistant director on such blockbuster motion pictures as Raiders of the Lost Ark, Return of the Jedi, and Gandhi. Another person we'd like to single out is Jack Champan, The Prisoner's art director. Like Markstein and Tomblin and many others in the Prisoner production team, he too was a veteran of Danger Man. His previous credits included The Lavender Hill Mob and Kind Hearts and Coronets, in which he served as senior draftsman, and the 1966 film version of Modesty Blaze as art director. Champan, more than anyone else, was responsible for the atmosphere of the Prisoner's interior sets. It was he who designed the control room, number 2's chambers, and number 6's apartment. He also suggested the bizarre underground caverns in which the final episode takes place. Unfortunately, time prevents us from mentioning the many others who added their own specific touches to The Prisoner. People like Brendan Stafford, the director of photography, and Ron Grainer and Albert Elms, whose wonderful musical motifs gave the series its varied yet distinctive moods. I'm Scott Appel, and I'll be seeing you